Well, listen. If you don't have anything to say, you blab. You just go on and 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 on.
Carrying the weight of her movement, steps onto The View, one of the most recognizable progressive talk shows on television, and directly challenges its long-reigning figurehead Whoopi Goldberg. Buckle up, because what unfolded was nothing short of explosive. The confrontation flipped the script completely, leaving Whoopi and the live studio audience stunned. Enter Karoline Leavitt, a 27-year-old rising voice in politics, who approached the show with one objective: to push back against the prevailing narrative. In an unforgettable clash she delivered, sending shockwaves through daytime television. Whoopi Goldberg, the long-established queen of The View, had commanded the spotlight for decades with her sharp humor and dominant presence. But when Karoline came for that throne, Whoopi's trademark wit and seemingly unshakable authority cracked in ways no one had anticipated. This was not just another political exchange, nor a simple left versus right spat. It turned into a demonstration of poise, factual backing, and the strength of refusing to be intimidated. If you've ever wondered what happens when the entrenched establishment collides with a voice unwilling to yield, this moment captured it perfectly. For many viewers, The View is synonymous with Whoopi Goldberg, a towering television personality whose smirk, quick comebacks, and ability to steamroll opposition became central to the show's identity. But as history reminds us, even empires face challenges, and Goldberg's reign was about to meet its fiercest test. The episode began like countless others: light jokes, exasperated eye rolls, and the usual panel of progressive voices nodding in agreement with each other. But when the discussion turned toward the topic of wokeness, a concept Whoopi and her co-hosts had practically elevated into a sacred belief, the energy on stage shifted dramatically. Feeling untouchable, Whoopi struck first, pointing directly at Karoline and declaring, "Without wokeness, you wouldn't even have this job." Most guests would have faltered, scrambling to come up with a shaky retort under Whoopi's glare. But Karoline Leavitt didn't flinch. Instead, she smiled, not arrogantly, but calmly, as though she had been waiting for that precise moment. In that subtle gesture, she signaled that she was ready to redirect the conversation in a way Whoopi could not foresee. And then she did. Karoline turned the argument completely upside down. Equipped with solid evidence and unwavering confidence, she began deconstructing the very foundation of wokeness, highlighting its contradictions and failures. She avoided the usual partisan talking points and instead relied on hard data. She cited official reports revealing how taxpayer dollars were being diverted into questionable initiatives, from overseas gender studies programs in Guatemala to global children's shows like Sesame Street, tailored to promote activist messaging. These were not vague accusations, but documented examples, exposing the inefficiency and misplaced priorities of such policies. The atmosphere in the studio shifted at once. The audience, long accustomed to Whoopi's dominance, sensed the change. Whoopi, the unchallenged powerhouse of the show, suddenly appeared uneasy. Her familiar confidence was gone, replaced by a silence that felt heavy. For the first time, the audience wasn't laughing at her quips or applauding her comebacks. They were holding their breath, watching the exchange with uncertainty. Karoline then delivered her sharpest blow. She reframed wokeness not as a social cause, but as a political tool wielded to suppress dissent, dictate narratives, and punish anyone who dared question it. Whoopi, who had effortlessly commanded discussions for years, was left exposed, unable to craft a meaningful reply. For once, she had no jokes, no smirks, no verbal dominance. She was defensive, cornered by the very ideology she had championed. And just when the tension seemed unbearable, Karoline raised her strongest point. If wokeness genuinely represented diversity and inclusion, why was its harshest hostility always directed toward conservative women? Why was tolerance only extended to those who mirrored progressive ideology? The question cut deeply. Whoopi, visibly shaken, tried to regain her footing, but failed. Karoline pressed forward relentlessly, not allowing Whoopi an escape. The legendary co-host, known for her quick, razor-sharp comebacks, sat speechless. She struggled, her mouth opening without words to fill the silence. The tension rippled through the audience. Everyone could feel the shift. For years, Whoopi had silenced dissenters, overpowering uncomfortable discussions. But in this moment, she was the one silenced. Deliberately courted controversy to keep ratings high, while silencing or ridiculing anyone who challenged its dominant ideology. The executives behind The View suddenly found themselves scrambling, trying to manage the fallout as advertisers reconsidered their sponsorships. It became clear that this was no longer just about one heated moment on live television. The very foundation of the show was at risk. If The View could no longer guarantee the dominance of its hosts or the loyalty of its advertisers, its future was uncertain. Would the producers attempt to return to the old formula, propping up Whoopi's authority, or would they be forced to reinvent the program entirely? For the first time, the latter seemed like a real possibility. As for Karoline Leavitt, the encounter became more than a television highlight. It was a defining moment for her career. She walked onto the set as an outsider, someone dismissed by many as too inexperienced to handle the spotlight. But she walked away having altered the balance of power, leaving the hosts and the audience changed. The confrontation highlighted deeper questions about the media landscape. Was The View finally losing its grip on daytime television? Could Whoopi Goldberg, after decades of dominance, recover from such a humiliating defeat? Or was this the beginning of the show's decline, the first undeniable sign that its formula was failing? For now, one thing was certain. The clash between Karoline Leavitt and Whoopi Goldberg had reshaped the conversation. It wasn't merely another political argument, it was a cultural moment. Karoline's calm, fact-driven approach against Whoopi's faltering defenses revealed a shift that couldn't be ignored. And as the dust settled, audiences across the country were left wondering if they had just witnessed the beginning of the end for one of television's most powerful shows.